So you've watched a video on pages 11 and 12 where I have reviewed how to solve the two-step inequalities. And now you're on page 13. Please make sure that 11 and 12 are done and that you watched that video and took notes on how to solve the two-step inequalities for pages 11 and 12. Now we're on page 13, and for number 9 here at the top, I'd like to remind you guys that the 1/2, this negative 1/2 here, this is a constant. And so to get rid of a constant, you just do the opposite in terms of adding or subtracting. Since this says y minus 0.5, we're just going to add the 1/2 to both sides. That cancels it out over here. And -8, if you add a 1/2 to that, it's going to get closer to 0. If you want to take the calculator and put in an 8 and make it negative, then add 0.5. The calculator will give you the -7.5. Okay? Now on the number line over here with the negatives, like if you were to take a picture of the number line, if -7 is right here, -6 and -5 go this way, and eventually 0 would be somewhere up this way. And then from -7, -8, and -9, and -10, and so on would be this way. When we solved this, we did not need to flip our symbol. We just added, so we could get our answer is y is less than the -7.5. Now on the number line, notice that I have my -7 and my -8 here. So -7.5 is halfway in between. We have an open circle on the -7.5, and we shade less than. Now let's take a look at number 10. Now in class, I was able to go over some of these types of problems with you all earlier in the week. And in the video that you already watched, you should have been able to also review how to solve problems like this. I want to remind you guys that this entire quantity right here, our numerator, is an unknown. We don't know it. Now for this unknown up here, to get rid of the 3, all we have to do for the denominator to get rid of the 3 is to multiply on both sides. When we multiply on both sides, this is what's left, the numerator on this side, -11 plus n. We did not multiply by a negative. That 3 is not a -3, so I'm going to leave my symbol alone. And this -2 times 3 is a -6. So first, we've successfully gotten rid of the denominator. Now, to get rid of this constant, we're going to add 11 to both sides. All right? We added, so we don't need to flip the symbol, and a -6 plus 11 is going to be a +5. So now what we want to do is select all of the answers that are less than 5. Over here, we have a negative number that's less than 5 and another negative number that's less than 5, and those would be the 2 answers. For the next one, number 11, x minus 3/4 is less than the -7. Now this one's back to just being a one-step inequality. The constant is a -3/4. And so notice over here in black, I just rewrote it as a decimal, a -0.75. So when we drop our line, we can easily see that we're going to add 0.75, and we're going to add 0.75. And you guys can use the calculators for that. Take your calculator. Let me move this over real quick. Sorry about that. All right, now I got my calculator out. So we're going to take the 7, it's negative, and now all you have to do is add, 7 negative, and add the 0.75. Boom. So we get a -6.25. So x here is less than a -6.25. Now over here, when we go pick all of these, we're trying to find anything that is smaller than a -6.25. So -20 would work. We're not going to pick the -6.25 because it doesn't have the or equal to. The positive numbers are obviously too big, but a -12 and a -650, those are all going to be smaller than our -6.25. Now for the last one on page 13, this will be the last one in this video, we have a 4y plus a half, and all I did was make that 1/2 a 0.5. I'm worried that a lot of you are going to mix up, when we have a constant here that's a fraction, I'm worried you're going to mix this up with a problem like if we had a 3/4 x is less than maybe, let's say, 12. And then maybe if we had like a 1/2 x is greater than maybe 5. When the fraction is a coefficient, y'all, that is when you multiply by the reciprocal. Okay? And you would do it down here for this next one. You'd multiply by the 2/1 or 2. And you'd multiply by 2/1 or 2. But back to questions 11 and 12. The fractions are actually a constant. So we do not do anything with their reciprocal. We simply care about the opposite, positive versus negative. So we're going to subtract 0.5 here for it to go away. And 10 minus 0.5 is going to be 9.5. Now this cancels out over here, and we have a 4y. And in your calculator, it is okay to take the 9.5 and divide it by the 4. And we're going to get a 2.375. When we divide this by 4, cancels out. And when we divide this by 4, that was the 2.375. So y here has to be greater than or equal to 2.375. And over here, this positive 40 would work. A 2.625 would work. And the two negatives will not work. That takes care of the video for page 13.